But Franz did come with the 4,000 crowns, said Chateau Renaud. A man whose name is Franz d'Epinay or Albert de Morcerf has not much difficulty in procuring them. No, he arrived accompanied simply by the guest I am going to present to you. Ah, this gentleman is a Hercules killing Cacus, a Perseus freeing Andromeda. No, he is a man of about my own size. Armed to the teeth? He had not even a knitting needle, but he paid your ransom. He said 2 words to the chief, and I was free. And they apologized to him for having carried you off, said Beauchamp. Just so. Why, he is a second Ariosto. No, his name is the Count of Monte Cristo. There is no Count of Monte Cristo, said Debray. I do not think so, added Chateau Renaud with the air of a man who knows the whole of the European nobility perfectly. Does anyone know anything of a Count of Monte Cristo? He comes possibly from the Holy Land, and one of his ancestors possessed cavalry, as the Motomars did the Dead Sea. I think I can assist your researches, said Maximilian. Monte Cristo is a little island I have often heard spoken of by the old sailors my father employed. A grain of sand in the center of the Mediterranean, an atom in the infinite. Precisely, cried Albert. Well, he of whom I speak is the lord and master of this grain of sand, of this atom, and he has purchased the title of Count somewhere in Tuscany. Is he rich, then? I believe so. But that ought to be visible. That is what deceives you, Debray. I do not understand you. Have you read the Arabian Nights? What a question. Oh my God, folks, it is like 100 degrees in my podcast studio. I am sweating bricks. And holy cow, did today really test trying to keep all these folks together. I think at a certain point, it doesn't matter too much. Like, the last little exchange there obviously comes between Albert and Debray, but, like, there are a handful of sentences in the middle of this thing that are hard to attribute to anyone specifically. And they apologized to him for carrying you off, said Beauchamp. Just so. Why, he is a second Ariosto. Now, is that Beauchamp finishing his thought, or is that someone else in this group of 6 men chiming in? Albert goes on to say, no, his name is the Count of Monte Cristo. Debray chimes in. They go back and forth a little bit. Chateau Renaud is there. Then there's this line, he comes possibly from the Holy Land, and one of his ancestors possessed cavalry, as the Motomars did the Dead Sea. Is that Albert chiming in about Dante? Is that someone else kind of levying supposition upon this myth that Albert is presenting to these men? I don't know, it's all over the place. And it ultimately, I suppose, doesn't totally matter. But what is happening is Albert is relaying to all these men the way in which Dante not only came in contact with Albert in the first place and Franz, but how he saved his life and how he's indebted to him. And the men being like, you're building him up a little too much. I don't know that any man can live up to these mythic standards. They're comparing him to Hercules and Perseus. And we culminate the passage with Albert bringing up, once again, Arabian Nights. Now, I am curious. It's impossible to answer this. Even, my research can't fully answer this question. Now we've had Dante, we've had the Abbe Faria, we've had Franz, Albert, we've had multiple independent people mentioning Arabian Nights in this story. Now, is this a common point of reference for people of the time, or is this Dumas really just putting his thumb on the scale of making all of his characters reference this work? I don't know. I'm wondering if, there's a modern equivalent to this. Is there something that is referenced so often that you lose sight of how often it's being referenced, just because it's still part of our kind of cultural vernacular? The only thing my mind jumps to is kind of in the early 2000s, it seemed like everything, whether directly or just influenced by The Matrix, was commenting on it. If you were a comedy, you're an animated film, you had a Matrix sequence in your film. If you were an action film, suddenly you were adopting the kind of martial arts style that The Matrix employed. So you've got, direct references in things like Shrek and Scary Movie, and you've got indirect things like Charlie's Angels, which is not like doing a Matrix parody, but it is very much in the lane that The Matrix paved. You start to lose sight that everything is commenting on the same thing. Now, 26 years removed from it, I bet if you steeped yourself in the works of that time, you would start to see just how many things are referencing The Matrix. I'm wondering if The Arabian Nights was The Matrix of its day. All right, that's all I've got for today. I am going to go cool off. Join me here tomorrow when hopefully it's a little bit cooler. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.